Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Bernard Larso, and today we're going to learn from a great man in the Bible. So as we know, so many great people in the Bible, in the Old and also in the New Testament, just like Abraham, David, Moses, Noah, and also the Apostle Paul, Apostle Peter, James, and John. But especially today we're going to learn from Moses. Now, this is amazing because the life of Moses is very interesting. All right. Now, if we study the life of Moses, at least we can divide his life into three different stages or phases. Phase 1, 2, and 3. And each phase he had to spend for 40 years. Now, the first phase, 40 years, also the second and the third. So, because as we know that he died at the age of 120 years old. Good old age. Now, the first phase of his life started right away after he was born, when his parents tried to save him by putting him in a basket and float the basket on the river Nile. Because the king was trying to kill all the newborn babies of the Israelites. Now, as we know from the story, that he was found by Pharaoh's daughter and adopted as her own son. So, the first phase of his life, for 40 years, he lived in a palace as an Egyptian, even though he was a Hebrew. But I believe he was highly educated because he was part of the royal family. He was highly educated and he was trained in the wisdom of Egypt. And probably he also had a career maybe in the government, or maybe he's been through a series of training in the military in Egypt. Basically, he's got good life. He's got everything that he needed. Until one day when he killed an Egyptian, he had to run for his life. And then he ran to a foreign land, the land of Midianites. And that when he started the next phase of his life. So he had to live in the foreign land for another 40 years as a fugitive, so to speak. Because as we know that he had to run for his life after he killed a man. Now, can you imagine this? One day, he was someone. And then the next day, he was no one. Nobody knew him. One day he got everything, and then the next day he got nothing. Basically, he got nothing in that foreign land, the land of Midianites. And even he had to work for his father-in-law. Now, he married to a Midianite woman, and he had to work for his father-in-law, taking care of the flock. And those animals were not even his. Those animals belonged to his father-in-law. So basically, he's got nothing. And maybe he thought that, okay, my life is over and I just have to live my life day by day. Until one day when God came back to him and God said that, all right, Moses, I need you. I want to send you now. Go back to Egypt to set my people free from the slavery. And this is funny because when I read this story, Moses said to God that it's like, Lord, why me? Why don't you just send someone else? Because I'm slow-tongued. I'm not good at speech. Now, isn't that funny? Because he was a highly educated person when he was in Egypt. And then how come that he said that, okay, I'm not good at public speaking? For me, that is very funny. Now, I believe that a lot of things happened during his second phase, during the second 40 years of his life in the foreign land. Probably he's gone through some process from God. I don't know. We don't know that because it's not recorded in the Bible. But at the end of the second 40 years, by the time he was already 80 years old, and then when God came, he said that, not me, Lord. This job is not for me. This mission is not for me. Just send someone else. Now, maybe, we don't know, again, we don't know this, but maybe during his 40 years, the second 40 years, he didn't talk that much to people. So it's like God had to erase or remove all of those things about Egypt in his life. And then when it's done, all right, now your process is done, now I need you to set my people free. Now, that when he came into the third phase of his life, another 40 years. Now, as we know from the story that he went back to Egypt to set the people free. Now, the third 40 years of his life he spent in the wilderness, but this time, he was the leader of God's people, the nation of Israel, and he was the greatest leader ever. Before that, he was a shepherd. Now, the third phase, he was also a shepherd, but for his people, Israel. And God has entrusted such great power and authority into this one single man. So what do you mean by that? Do you remember? Split Red Sea through the hand of this man. Water coming out of the rock. Manna came from heaven. Isn't that amazing? I mean, like God performed many, many miracles just like never before. Only by the hands of this one single man, Moses. Amazing story. The first 40 years, he's got everything. He was someone. Highly educated person. The second 40 years, he was no one. He's got nothing. And the third 40 years, again, he was the greatest leader of the nation of Israel, used by God to perform mighty miracles. Now, what is the moral of this story? What can we learn from the life of Moses? Now, I don't know what your condition is. Maybe your condition is not good. Maybe you said that, okay, Lord, I've lost many things up until today. Probably you've said that, Lord, I got nothing. But remember one thing, God is not done yet with you. It's not over until God says it's over. Now, He's amazing God. He knows everything from the very beginning until the end of our lives. Let's go with me to Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Let me read this for you. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and hope. You see that? To give you a future and a hope. So there is hope for you. Your future is in the hand of the mighty God. Now, in the King James, it's very beautiful, very, very beautiful in the King James, because it says to give you an expected end. Expected end. Isn't that amazing? That means what? That means God has already known the end of our lives. It's like, okay, I know the end. I set the end first, and then I start your life from the very beginning. So when you have to go through your life, I guarantee, because I know the end of your life, and it's good. It's good. God, our God is God of surprise. I believe He has prepared our future, because it says there is hope for the future. For the future. All right. I guess that's it for today. I believe we've learned something from the life of Moses. And until next time, God bless you all.